Welcome everyone to the Bromford and Hodge ward. This is a special meeting exclusively around the Bromford Regeneration scheme. Just to remind everyone that this is going to be live recorded for future reference. And during the meeting, if people can keep their mute buttons on, and just release them when they ask a question. If you wish to ask a question, you can raise your hand using the emoji, or just put in the chat speak, and then we'll pick it up that you wanted to ask a question. We've got several presentations from City Council officers this evening. So I'd like to welcome, first of all, Ron Williams from Birmingham City Council and Emma Bradley. I think Emma's here. And they'll be talking about the housing schemes and the regeneration. We've got from Balfour Beatty Vinci on behalf of HS2, we've got Diran Katwa and his colleagues Frank, James and Lukash. And we should have Inky Golby from the Environmental Agency joining us.
I'm here.
Hi, Inky. So good evening, everyone. So what we're here to discuss this evening is there's several issues surrounding the regeneration. There's a lot of work going on the estate at the moment, which, because there's so many projects running concurrently, there's few issues have arisen. So we'd just like to go and the officers will speak about their different briefs on what's happening on their remit and explain why the delays are happening, etc., and sort of time scale of the scheme. So if I ask first of all Ron Williams to come in from Birmingham City Council, he can explain the overview of the scheme, the regeneration, and more about the play areas. I know which concerns a lot of you, so we can hear a bit more about the play areas.
Okay.
So, Ron, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It's chesty today. Right. It's probably easier to start from the very beginning. Okay. So let's take us back to where we started from. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Very clear.
This is the overview plan which we put together roughly, I'd say, about beginning of 2018. This followed possibly a period of about 3 years of discussion between officers, the Environment Agency, reps from HS2, residents representatives, the ward members, and Liam Byrne MP, which gave us a template on which to pursue a regeneration strategy, relatively informally, for Bronford. Now, if I remind you, if you can follow my cursor, the areas in red were the areas we were looking at for potential housing sites. Yeah. We've got various other areas which were highlighted in purple, which we're looking at as potential public open space improvements. Yeah, which form the backbone of the regeneration. And at the top end, you've got a line. If I can get my cursor back on there. I seem to have lost it. But essentially, there's a line just by the river, which shows the flood defences, which are being constructed by the Environment Agency. Okay. Okay. Well, one does appear to have a bit of a problem here because I seem to have lost my map. To work with. Get rid of that. We seem to have a bit of a presentational issue here.
Joanne, is that your hand raised? We'll leave the questions until Ron's completed the presentation, then we'll take the questions
Okay.
Okay.
Right, moving on. Last year in July, we took a report to Birmingham's Cabinet, where essentially we asked for approval to develop most of those sites highlighted in red. Cabinet gave us approval and a budget in the region of about 43 million to take forward the development of design proposals and to go out to tender on the first two sites. The first two sites are the sites of the ex Bailey and Stonycroft Tower. Okay. We have gone out to tender on that and appointed it to Jessops, who are currently on site, and they intend to build out the site over the next 18 months. Okay, so let's just say the process of the housing side of rebuilding this estate has started. We have currently under development several other housing sites which are in the very early stages of design. So we're not really in a position to share those with you at this point in time, though we hope to be able to do that within the next month or so. Okay. What I have got, let's have a look. 3 of them are pretty well advanced. Okay. Let's see if I can get this one up. We appear to be having IT problems here. Hello? Can everybody still hear me?
Hello, Rod. We can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can.
Yes. Are you
Right.
having problems sharing the presentation?
Yes, hold on. I think
okay.
we've got a lag on the computer basically, but
Okay.
we are managing to make some progress. Well, what I've done is I've brought up the layouts which are pretty well advanced. Yeah, so there's roughly, this is one which is the Berendale site, which we are currently working up for a planning application, which we hope to put through in the next 3 months. That will deliver something in the region of about 74 new properties, all for council rent, and it's adjacent to the flood defence fund, right, at the west end of Bronford. We have another site which we are currently working on, which is, hold on, let's have a look. That's not what I'm looking for. Comet Park. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This is another one which we've also consulted on extensively over the last 2 years. That's also currently pending submission for planning, and that is for 20 new houses in the area which is currently occupied by the rather defunct Comet Park. Now, the proposal is for 20 new houses, but in conjunction with a new improved area of public open space surrounding it, which will also incorporate some outdoor gym equipment. So essentially, what we're trying to do is have another crack at making the outdoor gym equipment area in there work. At the moment, it doesn't work because it's got no natural surveillance. We're hoping by building 20 houses there, we will provide the natural surveillance which has been lacking in the past and which has led to this previous attempts to put a play area in there failing. We are pretty confident if we get this away, we'll not only add to the number of affordable houses in the area, but we'll also be able to provide a viable long-term outdoor gym equipment area in that area of the estate, and at the same time deal with an area where there has been a history of intermittent antisocial behaviour. Okay. In terms of the stuff that's already on site, just to bring you all up to speed, that's the site over at the old site of Bailey Tower, off Chipperfield Road. The builders, who are Jessops, started on site roughly about 3 weeks ago. So they've actually put fencing around this site and started to do some of the preparatory work, which mainly includes locations of services and working with Virgin Media and Openreach to start the diversion of the telecommunication services, which riddle that site. Approximately, that's about £500,000 worth of service diversions in order to deal with the upgrades with the optical services for broadband and telephones going forward. Well, what we have on Bailey is a scheme where we will have 25 new houses for council rent. Okay. Okay, so I can get this back up again. I just love working with this equipment. Always slightly on and off. Let's have a look. The second site we are currently working on is Stonycroft. Okay. Can everybody see that?
I still see the same one, I think, Ron.
It should be a different one.
It's the same one.
Are you sure? They're the same templates. Hold on. Let's do this again. All right. Can you see this? Because I'm seeing a...
It's still showing Bailey.
Okay. Looks like our IT's in a bit of a go slow. What I'm going to try and do is kill the Bailey. And click on Stoney. Any joy?
Not yet. It might be the sharing stream that's frozen. Maybe unshare and reshare.
Okay, I'll try that one.
Got to love technology.
Yeah, I know. We can but try.
There we go. That's showing up now.
Okay. On the other side of Chipperfield Road, we have the Stonycroft development, which is 28 new houses for council rent. Now, we have encountered one issue we didn't anticipate, which is we're going to need to close off Empress Drive for something like 70 weeks while this development takes place. We were hoping to keep this open and not disrupt the car parking of the residents there. However, now they've done the work and the services, it's looking like in order to put all the services that are going to be required into place, they're going to have to dig up the road, quite literally. I mean, they're going down several feet, and it's going to take quite a lot of time to sort out all those services. They estimate 70 weeks, which means we're going to have to sort out some alternative car parking provision. We were hoping to put a temporary car parking area off Bronford Drive, but we're encountering problems due to the Severn Trent works, which are currently happening on Chipperfield Road. At this point in time, we're being told that none of the licenses we actually need and the permits from BCC Highways are likely to be granted in the immediate future because of the Severn Trent works. So everybody's just sitting on their hands at the moment. We're waiting until Severn Trent have sorted out the blockage, which apparently is in the sewers underneath Chipperfield Road, going all the way up to the pumping station. And until that's resolved, it looks like we're going to have a slight delay in terms of the speed in which the house building program progresses. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody?
That makes sense.
Okay. I mean, it's slightly unfortunate. We were hoping to start to get off to a flying start and have these houses built in 18 months. We're anticipating that this will at least cost us a couple of months, but we're not 100% certain. Until we know how long it's going to take Severn Trent to sort out this blockage, we can't give firm timescales. But the key thing is, at least the process has started. So we're hoping that these will progress, and while they're on site, we will progress next Comet Park, then Berrendale, and then there's a whole raft of smaller sites, which all in all, we hope to produce 234 new houses over the next 5 years. Okay, that should cover the main housing section. The other elements of this, obviously there's the flood defences, which our colleagues in the Environment Agency will pick up later on. But the other area we're working on at this point in time is the public open space, which is the other critical element of what we tend to refer to as the sustainable community agenda for Bronford. Where we are at the moment, around Comet Park, we've got the outdoor gym equipment, which is point one. The second bit we are currently looking at is an area of land outside the shops on Bromford Drive. Hold on, let's see if I can get this one sorted. There we go. Can everybody see that one?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We bought a less evolved version of this to the Wall Forum a few months ago, and that was quite warmly received. My colleagues in Landscape Practice Group have gone away, taken on some of the comments that came back from the last Wall Forum and refined the proposals. What we are looking at the moment is a new area of outdoor gym equipment play equipment for children under the age of 12 years old, which will help replace some of the equipment which will be lost as part of the flood defence works. The general proposal is the area we've lost so far in terms of under 12 play equipment from the existing play equipment, some of that will go back, but not all of it. To make up for those elements which are lost, we create the new area in this location and actually improve the whole area of public open space in front of the shops to create an area which could be regarded as the village hub. Now, what we are proposing to do is ask for comments on this over the next month. The comments we are looking for are A, with regards to the actual selection of play equipment itself. So on your screen, you should be seeing now a selection of play equipment.
Yeah.
What we'll be asking people to do is basically over the next month or so, have a look at this and feedback via the Be Heard or directly to my colleagues in Landscape Practice Group. Now, we do have a slight problem given the fact that we're not able to go out and talk to people as much as we normally do. So what we're hoping is that we'll get some of this back via email. Some of it will go via the Be Heard. But if you're having difficulties, what we'll try to do is provide telephone numbers which will get posted around the estate where people can actually contact us to either talk to us directly, or we will provide other forms of communication in the forms of either additional email addresses, or I'd like to have an opportunity to actually come back in about a month once everything's come through, and again give people an opportunity to give us some direct feedback. Okay. It's not ideal, but at the moment, given the COVID constraints, that's probably the best we can actually do at this point in time. Jonathan has also produced for us a questionnaire. Okay. If I just run through this briefly, slight synopsis on where we are. Yeah. We'll be asking everybody to give an indication of whether they support the creation of this village hub proposal, whether they support the inclusion of the play area. Again, give us their feedback on the selection of play equipment. And we're aware that there is a view that there should be a heritage centre created in that area, which this is your opportunity if you think that should be included in the proposals to actually put your comments on here. Now, I would say that at this point in time, the feedback I'm getting from my colleagues in Parks is that they would prefer to run with this proposal without the heritage centre. However, that's not a foregone conclusion at this point in time. This is the whole point of consultation, effectively. So we are looking for people to give us some clear feedback on what they want to see here. Now, if we can get this consultation process through in the next month or so, the idea is to go for the planning approval that's going to be required over the next 2 or 3 months, with a view to being in a position to actually create this area starting in the autumn. It's slightly longer than we wanted, but given the current situation, I think that's probably the best we can do. In terms of existing play equipment, obviously they've been off limits while the flood defence works goes on. I'm advised by our colleagues in the Environment Agency that the play equipment up there will be available probably at the end of July. Now, one of the things I would say is that between now and that point in time, there's going to need to be a health and safety review of that old equipment, because it's been out of productive use for a few months now. My colleagues will want to make sure that it is safe before we allow children to formally go back and start using it. Okay, now we'll do everything we can to make sure that we operate on the same timescales as the Environment Agency, so that equipment is available for the summer holidays. But at this point in time, it will be dependent upon how quickly and how successfully our colleagues in the Environment Agency are able to complete the flood defence works of that part of the estate. Hopefully, James Baden, who was at the meeting today, and IMCA will be able to provide us with some degree of assurance that these targets are achievable. Okay. Now, I think that probably sums up where we are at this point in time. Councillor Donaldson, if I hand it back to you.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. Okay, so we are behind time from where we would like to be at this point, but I'd just like to open up the floor now to residents if they'd like to ask any questions.
I think Joanne indicated at the outset, Chair.
Sorry, I didn't see you. Yeah, Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying that Joanne indicated at the outset that she wanted
Joanne, but she's put her hand down now, so I don't know if that was a mistake or not.
Sorry, it was a mistake.
Okay, Joanne, no problem. Okay. So I don't see any other hands. Would anybody else like to make a comment or ask a question?
I was just going to say, Dan, what's happened in the last few months is on the back of us being granted the money from National for the flood defences, which kicked off the whole of the planning process for the properties. Without that money for the flood defences, none of this would have happened. And if we look at what's happened across the country, we were quite lucky to be able to get that money from government for the Environment Agency. There's parts of the city which are still continuously being flooded, such as parts of Spark Hill. And we've been very lucky here in Bromford that we've managed to secure that funding on the back of when we used to have the Flood Risk Management Board. And on that basis, if we can have just a snapshot figure on how much money has actually come onto the Bromford, on the back of that flood defence, including the flood defence money, because the city council has also put money. There's more than 100 million, but if you've got an exact figure that we can give,
we haven't got the exact figure, but in terms of the breakdown, yeah, well, what we're currently looking at is the flood defences themselves will cost something in the region of about 20 million. Yeah, that includes the 2.7 million which we're getting from Homes England, yeah, as a financial contribution. The housing side of the regeneration is currently estimated at about 43 million, and we are anticipating that the tower block improvement process will probably cost about 10 million per block. So if all 5 blocks are actually refurbished over the next 4 years, that's probably another 50 million pounds of investment coming in.
That's quite a significant amount of investment in the whole of the estate. Yeah, as Councillor Mahmood said, a lot of areas would be envious of the amount of investment in flood defences, especially when you see what's happening in Bewdley and other places, and with the climate change that we're going to, which will happen in the forthcoming years. If we don't do something now, we could find ourselves in an uncomfortable position. I've got 2 people who've indicated that they'd like to speak or ask a question. I've got Sarah Faulkner and then Paul. So I'll take Sarah first.
Just a quick question about the park. You said it's got to have a health and safety check before it can be used. What's the likelihood of that being done soon? So if there is a problem, that we can get it sorted for the kids?
Okay. The only reason why I flagged it up is because we were aware that this is what we need to do. So the idea will be to get it done as soon as possible. Yeah. So that it doesn't form an obstacle to any reopening, assuming that the flood defence works are done in the appropriate time.
So just to add on to that, so if you do find issues with that play area that's already there, will it be fixed so they can use it, or will it just be shut down until the other ones are opened up?
No, we'll have to do some repair work.
Okay, that's all right then. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to come in?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
So just a few questions. I think first of all, agree with what the council has been saying. You know, it's exciting to see the amount of developments that are going on. I think from what we're picking up, I think that a lot of the frustrations are that a lot of the building work is happening and some have been delayed, which is probably inevitable. But we're seeing a lot of the building work, but we're perhaps not seeing as many of the plans for some of the nicer stuff like the parks. So I think it's very exciting, the plans that we've seen for the village hub outside the shops. I think that's incredibly exciting. I'm just wondering, with the plans to reopen Bronford Park, when you're talking about investment, what are we talking about, and are residents going to be able to input into what happens in Bromford Park and about redeveloping that park, or are we just talking about reopening what's already there? Okay,
I'll take that in 2 parts. Firstly, we are talking initially about opening up what's already there. Yeah, but there was an area which was the previous under 12s play equipment, which was probably the most rundown of all the existing bits that are out there, and we've lost some of that equipment already. Yeah, some of it's still in place, and it's those bits that are still in place which are going to need to be checked out. Well, what I'm being told by my colleague Jonathan Webster, who's a landscape architect, what he wants to do is present another set of proposals which will rejig what's there and add a few other pieces of equipment in, which I think he wants to do the sort of selection process in terms of the additional equipment that we're just doing now with regards to the area outside the shops. So essentially, Paul, yes, there will be some resident involvement, and he wants to start doing this as soon as possible.
Fabulous. And in relation to that, just to be clear, so there's the fenced off. Let's say fenced off. There's the bit that's the little play area, and then there's the bit where there's the swing rope and the climbing rope and the zip wire. Are you talking about both of those being redeveloped, upgraded, or just the little play area?
Okay, my understanding at the moment is the little play area. However, yeah, once they go and do their health and safety check, if there's anything fundamentally wrong with the other area, then there's going to have to be a wider debate about those pieces of equipment. If they're fine and just need a few tweaks to them, then I think we keep them.
And if they're not on, will they be replaced like for like, or?
Can't say, to be honest.
Okay.
At this point in time, there's been an assumption that they're going to be fit for purpose, but until they've actually done the checks, they don't really know for sure. Because
the one of the rope swing down there, the big rope, has been damaged for a very, very long time.
Right.
So I think, I mean, pre the work that's been done by the Environment Agency, that's been damaged for quite a long time. So I think that whole space needs some investment. And then is there an opportunity around the sports set side of it? I know that is a heavily used space by young people in particular. That kind of over 12s who are kind of, seems like there's a lot of stuff under 12s, which is fabulous. But like the teenagers, that park is massively used. Is there an opportunity to rethink that space, upgrade that space, which I'd include the skate park and the five-a-side football and basketball space?
Okay, at this point in time, there is no budget for that. Yeah. Obviously, we're constantly looking for opportunities, but at this point in time, I have to say categorically not at the moment, because there simply isn't a budget available to deal with that. The budgets which have been raised today have been concentrating on those areas which have been affected by the flood defence works and the proposals to create the village hub outside the shops.
Thank you. And sorry, I've got two more questions. I apologise. One was just, I know all this stuff is really, really hard work. But is there any time scale around the possible development? Well, the development of the park at Berrindale Road, which was committed to. Is there a time scale for when we're going to see a similar process of consultation and involvement for that park?
Okay, Paul. And I can tell you're frustrated on that one, because we all are. Okay, the state of play on that one. Now, we did instruct our colleagues to have a look at that, but they have been tied up with the other two proposals we were fielded tonight. They've taken a lot more energy than we originally thought to get them to where they are. The other element we've got at this point in time is we were anticipating that we would have had a planning application in for Berrindale before Christmas. Unfortunately, that has not proved possible, and until our colleagues in the Environment Agency have finished with their works on there, we're not going to be in a position to put forward the final planning application for Berrindale, yeah, which the improvement of that particular play area will be tied in terms of the funding to that housing build. Yeah. So my proposals are that essentially Jonathan, once he's sorted out the areas around by the shops, he will get round to doing a more detailed set of proposals for Berrindale. We're leaving that to last simply because the funding is not going to be available to deliver it until we're able to build the house now at Berrindale, and that's been delayed.
Okay, I think as long as I think I totally understand the frustration, the delays and the hard work. I think it's just as long as that is definitely secure, because I think the Firs area, since it was built, has pretty much been neglected in relation to parks. So to have new houses built down there has to be a new park. So as long as the park is definitely going to happen, I think we can understand delays, and especially if the houses aren't being built yet, I think we can understand the delays.
We've committed to have a go at that, and to be honest, the ward members would throttle me if I didn't deliver on that one.
Good. And I got one last question. Sorry, Chair.
Beforehand, anyway, on that one. Okay.
I had one last question. Sorry.
Okay.
Is that okay, Chair? The new houses, exciting that most of them are council houses. That's fabulous. Will there be a process that local people from within Firs and Bronford, and I'm thinking of lots of families that live in the tower blocks without garden space, which has been huge during the pandemic, will there be an opportunity for them to get access to those houses. And I'll give you two examples. I know two families that have had to move. Two families who didn't want, two families who did not want to leave our neighbourhood, who have been saddened to leave our neighbourhood, but have had to move to nearby neighbourhoods and have lost a lot of their links to friends, family, schools. So there are lots of families living in those tower blocks that would be desperate for those houses. So I think, you know, if we can work out a process that they can be allocated to local people first, that would be fantastic.
We are lobbying for a local allocations scheme. It's something that we...
What I'd have to say as a development manager, though, at this point in time, the allocation process does not allow us to do that. Your ward members have been vigorously lobbying about this for the last 3 years. That's just to my knowledge. Yeah, but at this point in time, the frustration is the city council's allocation policy, which does not allow us to directly, well, to have a local lettings policy at this point in time. Those are restricted to areas where there is active demolition going on, and unfortunately, I mean, the demolition processes on Bronford are now history.
Okay. Well, thank you to the councillors for pushing.
We will keep fighting for.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. I'll pass over to, I think, Councillor Majid. You've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, 3 years ago, one of the first items that we lobbied for is exactly what Paul has flagged up, having a local allocations policy. And if City Council never permitted it, what we wanted was for people who live locally who were on the waiting list to have, to be notified specifically about the opportunity to apply for. And one of the kickbacks that we did have from Central was the fact that lots of families who were in Warstone and Holbrook Tower managed to get new properties around Pipe Hayes, and the local people in Pipe Hayes said, well, hang on, you've got a load of people coming from Bromford into Pipe Hayes. But it's something that we're going to continue. And me personally, and the chair is with me on this, is that we want to have a local allocations policy across the city, not just in the Bromford. So people live local. If there's new properties being built by council, they should have first entitlement, or at least have some additional points allocated so that they can bid for them. Just on the Bromford Drive Park, Ron, 2013, 2014, myself and the other two councillors at the time, which was then a Hodge ward, we allocated approximately £160,000 towards the revamping and refurbishment of the large park on Bromford Drive. It was money that came from capital receipt for the sale of the old children's home on Reynoldstown Road, and part of that was the children equipment which we've discussed, and some outdoor gym equipment. And at the outset of this, we were informed that investment, because we had also paid for a maintenance policy on the equipment for 15 years, that we would actually have like-for-like investment coming back, because that is money that's already been invested in Bromford Drive. And I will be kicking off really badly, and I'm sure residents will either, if we lose that funding, because that was funding that was set for the Bromford at that time, and we have paid the maintenance, which is what officers from Landscape had instructed us to do, was to pay for the 15-year maintenance program. So now all of a sudden we might lose that. And then on the pitch area, the basketball 5 side, that is heavily used. And I've always said that if money is allocated through Section 106 around the Bromford, and there is some money that may come our way from Collingbourne Avenue, because the development has now started there, that we would allocate that towards any new parking facilities. If, say, for whatever reason, Perrendale doesn't happen, because a number of years back we did try getting some funding for that, but residents pushed back against it. But this time round, with the consultation that took place prior to COVID, we've not had any kickback, which is good news. So, but we can, that'll be one of our priorities as elected members. We can promise you that today, and that's on public record as well now. Thank you.
Would you like me to comment on that one?
Yes, please.
Okay. In terms of the maintenance budgets, yeah, what I can do is I can go back and ask the guys at Parks, yeah, whether that budget is still accessible. Yeah, obviously it should be, but whether it is another matter altogether. because we've had several incidents around the city on estates I've worked on where when we've actually gone to ask whether the budget is still available, for one reason or another, it hasn't been. Yeah, so we can't put my hand on heart and basically say yes, this money is there. Yeah, however, I will say I will go back and ask colleagues whether the money is available, and if so, how much, and report back. Okay. In terms of the Section 106 monies for the development of the old Comet pub site on Collingbourne Road, I gather that funding will be available once the development is completed. Now, that was the situation at least 12 months ago. I gather that may have been reviewed when the people currently building out this particular site took over the development. So we're not 100% certain that situation is still as we were informed 12 months ago. But again, I will go back and I'll ask that question. Now, I would say that part of the funding that comes from that, I have suggested to colleagues that that would be useful as part of the contributions to the revenue contribution for Comet Park. Not all of it, but some of it. So there are some discussions that will need to take place in terms of what funds are available and where they are allocated. But at this point in time, when it comes to the maintenance budget, which is always the area of most debate, all I can do is go back and ask the questions and then report back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. For how many years is the maintenance budget in place for?
It's normally 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, it was agreed at 15.
It's policy.
Cost us about 40,000 at the time, I remember.
Yeah, well, one of the problems we have when creating any new play area is that there is a policy requirement that we have to identify a revenue budget for the maintenance of the area for the following 15 years. If we can't do that, then they won't sign off the capital project.
Which is the price up quite considerably.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any more questions for Ron? No. Okay. Well, thank you, Ron. Thank you for your presentation. It's been really helpful to understand how it's progressing.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. And then if we could have some more information at regular intervals, and we can get it displayed in local shops, and until we can have proper meetings, we'll carry on having these forums every so often to update residents. Okay.
As we've done with the Stoney and Bailey, where we've put the plans in the local shop window, yeah. It might be worth having a dialogue with the shopkeepers over at the main Bronford Vive shops, so to see whether they're prepared to put any of these plans in their windows as well. So obviously, until we're fully back up and running, it will be useful to have as many outlets as possible.
It would indeed. And also there's a shop at the other end of the estate in Reynoldstown Road. I know the shopkeeper there would be happy to display information in his shop window as well.
Okay, that'd be good.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you, Ron. Your freeness. We'll pass over to Imke from the Environmental Agency. Hold on. I saw a hand up there. No, it's okay. Yeah, Joe, I've got a comment here from Joanne. So maybe put it in the community centre. So that's another outlet. So there's about 3 outlets that we could put some information in. Okay.
Yep, got it.
Brilliant. Right, thanks, Ron. Thanks once again.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Imke.
Hi, you want me to start now? I haven't prepared a presentation as such.
That's okay. Just if you can just update us on what's happening.
Okay. Not so much news. If I assume that everyone has received our newsletter, which has a lot of information in already. So I'll probably repeat quite a bit of what's in there. So as you already know from what Ron said, our scheme has been delayed, and that does mean that we'll be in the neighbourhood probably until the autumn of this year. We'll be in the whole of Bromford for the whole scheme until March 2022. However, this neighbourhood we hope to finish before we finish the rest of the scheme. All of these dates are subject to change, obviously, as you know, as we work in a very urban area, so we're always discovering things that that we need to bear in mind. Yeah, I suppose the main things to advise you of is that we are looking at, with regards to the play area, at opening that up as soon as possible. But obviously, we need to work with one. We need to make sure that it's safe. Health and safety is paramount, of course. So we're hoping to get those open by the school holidays. But obviously, as Ron said, we need to make sure that the play equipment is right, which is something that the council would have to look into as well. We've had some complaints about potholes, which I think the council is dealing with at the moment, but we will be liaising with the council with it. With regards to noise and the ongoing noise, and I suppose that is partially as a result of the fact there's so many different regeneration activities going on at the moment. But yeah, we don't know whether James is able to give a bit more detail as to when we're going to be where in a bit. And then there have been concerns raised around cracking in housing, which we've been dealing with by assessing some of the houses nearest to the flood defences. We found there's no substantial damage done to any of the properties by our works, or just generally there's no substantial damage found. I think they are the main things that I need to inform you of, really. I mean, I'm open for any question that people may have. Unless, James, you want to add a bit more first?
No, but I can perhaps, yeah, just go into a bit more detail about what we're doing and where. Obviously, we're building the flood defence embankment through the estate, through the park. As Imka and Ron said, we're planning to have the section down to the under-12s playground open before the school's 6-week holiday in July. We then should have the section then down to the shops finished not too much later. With works then sort of from the shops to the pumping station at 7 Trent. They'll be sort of complete towards the end of August, as will then the works from the recycling centre down to the Chester Road, where we tie back in.
Sorry, I was on mute. Any questions from anyone?
Any more questions? Imke, the main complaint that I've had is about mud on the roads. That's one I'm picking up generally. I know it's been the weather's been against you on this one, but
it really has, and it will be a bit better towards the spring and summertime. We do have a road sweeper almost continuously working around the Bronford estate. James, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Certainly, yeah. It's maybe not every single day. Obviously, if we're not doing any works on that day, which we don't think is going to add or put any mud on the road, then we probably won't have the road sweeper. But certainly, we do continue to monitor that, and if we are going to be doing anything where we think we're dragging mud back onto the road, we make sure that we have a road sweeper available and on the estate.
And it's a fine line as well, because we've also had complaints about the noise of the road sweeper. So hence James is constantly monitoring as to what the best course of action is to make sure that we keep everyone happy. Councillor Mahmood has got a question.
Yes, Majid.
Oh, you've just taken the question right out of my mouth. It was around the noise and what we're doing in order to minimise the noise, because we did have a complaint a few months back, which was that where we had a rogue contractor coming into Bronford about midnight, which caused all sorts of noise disturbance for residents. We need to ensure that doesn't happen again. And secondly, the question is, please, if there's anything you're prioritising, please prioritise the reopening of the play park before the summer holidays. Our kids in the Bromford, they've not had anything, with the lockdown and everything. It's been very, very difficult for them. And I don't want to really sound, it's going to be even worse if we don't have the park open, because a lot of them are having to travel out of the Bromford to get to nearby parks in Ward End or Hodge. They need somewhere to basically be able to play. So, please prioritise that. Make that number one priority going forward.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the messages. James is just unmuting himself that we keep on reminding the contractor of. I think you have got that on top of your list, haven't you, James?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have we got any questions from residents? Anyone?
Sarah
okay,
and Paul.
Sarah. Sarah, would you like to come in?
Yeah, it's just a quick one, really. I'm up what I class the top end of the Bromford by the shops. Why is nothing actually being done up there? There's nobody working up there. I'm right by the park. So if the park is trying to be prioritised, why is nothing being done up there?
James, do you want to talk through the programme?
So we're at that end of the estate. We have we've already done a lot of the works. We've already built the embankment and we've started to build the cycle path. What's happened at the moment, obviously, is as you're aware, we're a bit behind where we wanted to be in terms of our programme due to various reasons. Obviously, we had originally been planning to finish all the works autumn last year. Now, the nature of this type of work, placing clay, placing topsoil, etc., is not work that we'd planned to do at this time of year. So what we've done is we've taken the decision just to sort of halt those specific activities for a short period of time, and then we'll be recommencing towards probably in about a month's time, obviously to make sure then that we've got all the works complete to get the play area open.
Okay, no problem, thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you, Sarah. I've got Paul, is your hand raised?
Yeah, just a question. So after the landscaping and the replanting of trees, can you just confirm the plans for when that's going to happen? How many trees are going to be replaced? Obviously, some trees have been knocked down, and so numbers of trees, and then an opportunity for local people to get involved in the planting of those trees, because a lot of the trees that have been cut down were planted by residents, and it gives that sense of ownership to that space. So numbers of trees and when they're going to get done, and opportunities for local people to be part of planting those trees.
Ron and Claire, you probably are the ones that are best able to answer that one.
Hiya, I'm happy to have a chat first. So essentially, we're not changing anything on the landscaping plans as to what was kind of already been proposed previously. So I think you've been to our previous drop-in sessions, haven't you? And you've seen that our landscaping plans previously. I know it was probably a little while ago now, but we're not proposing any major changes from those. We don't, as of yet, know exactly when we're going to be putting the landscaping in place. However, we're working it through at the minute. We're also working quite closely with BCC to see how we can go about putting those trees in. So yeah, I think that's something we can discuss potentially maybe a few months down the line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Paul,
Ron, do you want to come in?
Yeah, if I come in. What I want to say, Paul, is that we're aware that the residents want to have some level of involvement, yeah, And there's a lot of significant trees that will need to go in, and those will need to be put in by contractors. Yeah, but we are hoping there will be an opportunity for some resident involvement with the smaller things like the whips and things like that. Now, we'll need to continually raise this with my colleagues in landscape practice group to make sure it stays on the radar. Yeah, I am aware that we do sometimes just put our heads down and just get things done. Yeah. Now, at this point in time, all I can say is that the tree planting is likely to take place in the autumn. Yeah, because it normally takes place in 2 points of the year. Just before the start of the early parts of spring, yeah, we get an opportunity to do some tree planting. This year, given where we are with the construction of the flood defences, that's not going to be possible at this. We're not going to be doing anything at this end of the year. So your next opportunity will be next autumn. And so we do have the time to basically have that discussion, sort out exactly what's going to happen, when, and who does what. We now have a bit more time than we originally thought.
So basically what you're saying is, in the autumn we can have a grand opening, COVID restrictions will allow us, and we can plant some trees. Is that what you're saying?
That sounds perfect.
I'm not be able to say that, Paul. I'm not saying that, but I will forward your suggestion to my colleagues.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? No. I think that's all. So.
Well, that was
thank you.
Straightforward.
Yeah. Right.
If there is any further questions, obviously my contact details on the newsletter, and it can go to the councillors.
Yeah, I'll share your newsletter with the local shops, and then we can put something in the windows. That's probably the easiest way in these times of COVID.
Yeah, definitely, that would be brilliant. Yeah. Like Ron said,
these forums at at regular intervals. So if there's any updates, we can hear the updates. But I'll collate as much information as possible, and we can share it with the shopkeepers and community centres around the Bromford. Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Can I ask if I will stay till the end, but can I ask if any of my colleagues, if they want to go, if it's okay that they disappear now?
Yeah, they're welcome to leave. And thank you for your input, James.
That's quite up.
And you're staying with us, Imke. Okay. Right. So next on the agenda, we have Diane Kapler from Balfour Beatty Vinci on behalf of HS2. Welcome, Diane.
Very good evening.
This evening, yeah.
Well, look, I'd like to, I'm very conscious of time, and I'd like to take this opportunity first to thank you, Councillor Donaldson and Beverly Edmead, for inviting us to this forum this evening, myself and my colleagues. It's a great pleasure to be here and to sort of meet you, at least virtually. So without further ado, I shall introduce our presentation. And I've got my, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see that.
Fantastic. Well, let me move this. Well, we spoke about COVID. Like most organisations, we're obviously continually reviewing the works on our construction sites in line with the Government and Public Health England. So this is, I think, very, very standard that all of us are doing. And this evening, as I said earlier, I am supported this evening by my three musketeer colleagues, Frank O'Connor, Shaft SCL Structure Manager. His title will soon become sort of more meaningful when I go through the slides. I've got James Figg, who's the Tunnel Section Engineer, and Lukasz Pajczowski, who's the Site Agent. So construction works in your area, so that's within sort of Bromford, more Bromford than Hodge Hill. Here's an example of a notification. We've recently, in the last fortnight, carried out CCTV drainage inspection works in sort of Bromford Lane and neighbouring roads, we did issue a notification which residents should have received. If you didn't, please do let us know, and we will sort of try and accommodate. But as I say, you should have received a notification, which is also available on the commonplace website of HS2, details which I can provide later. If I now ask James to step in and perhaps talk about the original design and the updated design, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Hi, I'm James Figg. I'm a section engineer with Balfour BT Vinci up here in the Bromford area. I'll just give you a rundown of what might have changed since you might have seen plans for the tunnel. So originally the plan was to construct the tunnel between the Castle Bromwich Business Park and Washwood Heath, but that's been extended now to bring the portal away from Castle Bromwich Business Park and out towards Waterorton. That saves us a lot of construction works on surface around Park Hall Nature Reserve and area between where our East Portal is now and the business park. Next slide, please, Darren.
Okay.
So this is where the East Portal is now, up near Waterorton. So we've minimised the disruption above ground by taking everything, all our construction underground now. So we've got about 3 kilometres of extra tunnel from this extension. So you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like when we finish the work in that picture on the right of the screen. So you've got the M6 to the right, that view's looking towards Waterorton up to the north. Okay, next slide, please, Darren. Yeah, there we go. So this is the Bromford Tunnel Intermediate shaft, so a bit closer to areas around where you guys are. So this is in the Castle Bromwich Business Park. So it was the old British car auction site. So we'll be constructing a shaft here down to about 48 metres below ground level. Then we've got a number of SCLs, so sprayed concrete lined tunnels, to construct from the base of the shaft to join up with the 2 running tunnels on the north and south side of the shaft that will be constructed by a tunnel boring machine. So during operation of the railway, this will be the ventilation shaft for the tunnel and acts as a service shaft. So there'll be emergency firefighting equipment based here, and the ventilation fans will be able to be used in an emergency situation to draw smoke out of the tunnels and allow an evacuation. Okay, next slide, please, Darren.
Just at that point, if I can interject, James spoke about the tunnel boring machine. Now, there will be an exciting opportunity, perhaps later this year or early next year, where the public in Birmingham will be given the opportunity to suggest names for the tunnel boring machine. And it'll be a competition open to people. So it's just a heads up, more details to follow.
Great. As I've kind of touched on before, sort of benefits to the tunnel extension from the original design. It's added about 3 kilometres on, taking everything that would have been constructed above ground, kind of below ground, meaning that we don't have to do, there are going to be river diversions of high voltage cables. So it's a good benefit to the kind of the Park Hall area by taking our construction works underground. And we're also taking 260,000 fewer HGV movements in the area. So there should be a lot less disruption to the road networks from our works. Next slide, please, Darren. Bit of a construction update. So this is a aerial view of where we're constructing the East Portal over near Waterorton for the Bromford Tunnel. That's looking north, so you've got the B4118 just at the top of that picture, and the M6 over to the left, looking towards the Bromford area. Next slide, please, Darren. This is on the north side of the B4118. So this is where we're constructing our offices and welfare facilities that will be used throughout the works. We'll also have a car park here for workers and overflow storage for segments that will feed the tunnel boring machine as it moves forward. And that's looking back south over the East Portal site. So from there, on the south side of Birmingham Road, we'll have all the equipment and plant to keep the tunnel boring machine going and complete the works. Next slide, please, Darren. So this is a 3D mock-up of what you'll see on surface whilst we're constructing the works over off the B418. The aspect's a bit off, so the base layer, the aerial image, isn't exactly where it is. So that's on the south side of the B418. So this is our slurry treatment plant to support the tunnel and boring machine. So you'll notice this going up over the next year off the B418 as you drive towards Wateraughton. Next slide, please. And that's a bit of a top-down view of it. Again, the actual slurry treatment plant STP is a bit to the right and the left, right and down, sorry, on the aerial image. It's slightly off, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what we'll have there. Okay, next slide, please. And our construction timeline. So works at the Bromford shaft and the Castle Bromwich Business Park kicking off at the moment with ground investigation. Next couple of months we'll start to mobilise to site, so there'll be an increase in workforce in the area, and we'll hope to have our offices installed there around kind of mid-May time. So we'll have a number of workers moving in as we start to ramp up the site. And the shaft construction there is this diaphragm wall construction, so that will start later on in 2021. So our subcontractor will be on site sinking the diaphragm walls, and then we'll come in early next year and start digging down to our base lab level. Works over at Bromford East, so they're ramping up nicely over there. We're hoping to get the TBM launched in 2022, early to mid 22, and the tunnel construction there will last about 3 years. Next slide, please, Diane. And that's about it for the construction. I'll hand back to Diane to go over some community engagement stuff, and happy to answer any questions at the end.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that, James. And just on sort of that, we've been notified of vibrations, and I know Councillor Mahmood mentioned a road contractor. I'd be very interested to see who that road contractor was. We'd looked into this. We were not in the area, but that was an interesting observation. As James said, this is our community investment program. It's one of our ways to sort of give back to the community. And I know residents on this call, and Paul in particular, Ron also sort of referenced this. We are trying to do collectively what we can to sort of help the community, work alongside the community. So there are various opportunities available in terms of volunteering, fundraising, capacity building. Just a fortnight ago, we did a food bank collection for a local football club, which myself and 2 other colleagues attended, and it was Frank also who's on the call. He came along. It was a lovely evening, a great group of people, and we were able to sort of support the local football club by donating a mountain of food, and this was actually covered in the local press as well as on ITV Central News. So it was a good news story all around. So as I said, there are various opportunities to sort of access funding. There's the Business and Local Economy Fund and the Community Investment Fund, which you can access. This is, we've got a virtual one-to-one presentation this Wednesday between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. If anybody is interested in finding out more or has any additional questions, there's my email address at the bottom of the screen, and you can sort of sign up to this virtual session via Eventbrite, but I can again provide details if you take down my email or get in touch. And that sort of concludes our presentation there. Any questions?
Thank you, Diane. Will these slides be available to us? Can we have copies of these slides?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share them with you, Councillor Donaldson. Yes.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions that they'd like to raise? I'm not seeing any hands at the moment. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, Councillor Mahmood. Majid.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you for the presentation. Thank you for attending. The meeting on the 17th, is that for people from across the city? They can log in. And secondly, obviously with the work happening, and a lot of people are nervous with the fact that there's a tunnel coming underneath their properties, allegedly. If we could just have a map that we could share with residents as to the actual tunnel where it's gone under the Bromford, and just have your assurance now that there won't be any disturbance whatsoever to residents whilst the work is being undertaken. Thank you.
Well, Councillor Mahmood, thank you very much for your two questions. And as I said, thank you very much for inviting us to this forum. You asked about a map of where the tunnel boring machine will be going under in Birmingham. I can't promise you that disruption will not happen. Disruption is very likely. However, we put the interests of the public ahead of ours. And what we do is we notify residents, businesses, well in advance to let them know of any upcoming works that may be coming. So that's something that we will continue to do to keep members posted. Your other question was about the session this Wednesday. That is specifically for people in Bromford and perhaps Hodge for this forum. So anybody from Bromford who'd like to get involved or have any questions, that session is for them. So we've got similar sessions planned for different wards across Birmingham.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Yeah, just like to ask, what level underground, how many meters underground is the tunnel?
Hi, Darren, I'll jump in there for a second.
Go on, Frank. Thank you.
Hi. So over if we start in the Water Orton portal area, and we're starting at approximately 20 meters below ground level, and we go to the deepest point at Bromford shaft, which is at the car auction. So we're at approximately 50 meters deep, and then we rise back up to 20 meters again over in Washwood Heath. And just a comment about the disruption, I think for the tunneling operation itself, for the drilling works, I wouldn't expect anybody to feel any vibration or any movement or anything like this, because we are so deep and we're so far down that it's not expected. Because this was, I was surprised during when you were on to me the last day that people were feeling vibrations or something on their buildings, even though we didn't even start tunneling. That was one surprise. But I think even if we were tunneling, you wouldn't expect it to see any disturbance or any vibration or any cracking at depths that we're going to be working at.
So under Bromford is on an average of 30 meters then, would that be?
No, it's going, well, yeah, at the Water Orton end and Washwood Heath, it'll be, you could say 35 meters average. Because we go to a really deep point at the British car auction area, and then it rises back up again towards, but it never comes, the tunnel never comes to the surface. The closest it comes to is about 20 meters below ground level, and then it'll transition in these portal boxes, and from there then it will come out of the tunnel, and then it starts rising back up to ground level through the portal box and then onto the surface.
Okay. And in terms of visibility of workers, we shouldn't really see many on Bromford. Would that be a fair assumption?
Well, in the work areas, you're always going to have workers on the surface, because we will have welfare rest areas, and they will have to travel from the rest area down onto the portal, and from there then they will go underground.
Yeah, but actually working on the Bromford as such, they'll be working underground basically. We won't see them.
Until we actually start the tunnel, everybody will still be working on the surface. And yes, once we start tunneling, the majority of people will be working underground, but we will still have a certain amount of people that work on the surface, because we'll have the slurry treatment plant in operation, and this will require a certain amount of people to maintain and operate the plant. But all the material from the tunneling operation, this spoil, because as we excavate underground, we have to take the spoil out. The spoil comes out in a liquid form it goes into the slurry treatment plant, and then it gets converted from a liquid back into a solid. But all this material then it stays within our work site, because it will be transported from the tunnel area over onto which we call Delta Junction, which is back out towards the M6, M42 direction.
Okay, so lorries on the estate, we won't be seeing lorries on the estate.
There will be trucks bringing material onto site so we can actually build the STP and the portal structures. But we've got, I believe we're limited to 40 return trips a day on B4118, and then it's our priority that we get the access from the M6, M42 slip road, and then we'll bring all our vehicles from there onto site.
The roads that will be affected will be mainly in the Waterorton area. Is that correct?
Correct. There will be, but for the shaft area, we will have a certain amount of vehicles that will be coming on. It's Thameside Drive, and
yeah, that's the
it'll be
old
fed from
auction site.
Yes, and that'll be off Chester Road. But again, we're working to the environmental impact assessment. We have a certain amount of vehicles that we're allowed to have on the road on a daily basis, so that has been kept to a minimum.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have any questions from residents? No, I've got no more questions at this point. So, well, I'll draw it to an end then. So thank you very much, Frank, Diane and James. Thank you for your presentation. It's been really informative, and if you've got more information ongoing, I'm going to share it with the local shopkeeper so we can keep residents informed that way. And we'll be having forums in the future, so we'll invite you along to those to keep us updated.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Councillor Donaldson. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, everyone.
Do you want to mention, Chair, that there's going to be another meeting shortly to discuss the community grants that are available for the Commonwealth Games?
Yes, our next ward forum, which I believe is on April the 19th. I'll circulate the dates, but we're going to have a ward forum about the Commonwealth grants that are available to local communities. Every ward has a certain pot of money which can be is up for small grants to the local community for events surrounding the Commonwealth Games, basically. So you'll all be invited to, if you leave your email addresses with Bev at the next ward forum, we'll send you the invitations out to that, and we'll have a presentation from officers around the Commonwealth Games funding. So I'd just like to thank you all for coming along this evening, and we look forward to seeing you at future ward forums, and thank you for your questions. Right, authority to chair and officers.
Agreed.
Thank you, Majid, and thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.